everybody. My name is Chris Neuer. I am the host of the Racers Place podcast. Today is our first episode, and we're going to be interviewing six-time IndyCar champ Scott Dixon. He's got 54 wins.
55 now.
55 wins.
Sorry.
He's here. That's 2008 Indy 500 winner. He's the husband to Emma and the proud father of Poppy, Tilly, and Kit. Welcome to the Racers Place podcast.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Just a quick thing. So we're filming this before the last race of the season, but the championship got clinched last week to your teammate Alex.
Yep.
When the season's over, we're all leaving Laguna Seca. What are you doing?
Emma and I actually go. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm not really fighting for anything this weekend apart
Just
from the race win, which makes it nice and simple and kind of cool. And same for Alex as well. We can definitely try to help Marcus Ericsson as well in the points there. He's still got a fairly tight battle there. Same with Armstrong for Rookie of the Year. But kind of weird going into a championship finale where I'm in no man's land. I can't be third or I can't be first. So, which is definitely pretty interesting. But yeah, we go. I think a couple of days post ranch in Big Sur, which we always try to do, and then I think I have to test in Texas, maybe on the Wednesday for Armstrong's rookie orientation. And then there's a 2-day test in St. Louis, Thursday, Friday. I'm skipping that one. I'm going to England, actually, for, I think, Jimmy Johnson's birthday. He's moved to England now.
He did?
Yeah, so that's they're having like a out of America excursion for a year or two. So, yeah, I'll bounce back for his birthday, and then I'm back for some testing at Road America. It's all the hybrid stuff's kicking off pretty heavy, so it's not much of an off-season until you hit November, I think. November's going to be pretty light for most of the teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then are you going to stay in London for your...
It's always back and forth, but yeah.
Because of testing.
Yeah, exactly. But then we'll be back here for Christmas, and then we've got a ski trip, I think, in January. So, yeah, man.
And then it's time for the Roar.
Yeah, and then exactly. Well, there'll be a load of IMSA testing.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm still in that program. I haven't heard anything about that, but hopefully I'm still part of the Cadillac team.
All right. First thing I wanted to get through was a review of 2023. Some of the highlights, some of the lowlights. Like, when you look back on this season, obviously, I know, because you're a six-time champ, you want the seventh.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't happen, but second in points, there's 26 guys that would trade with you, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how do you look back on this year?
It was definitely a bit of a blah year. I don't know. We just... I don't know, second was kind of surprising, and to not really be challenged for second as well, I think is interesting. To kind of have that late run was a lot of fun, but it almost came too late. You know, I think you can always look back at races where, you know, strategy-wise or just how, you know, the cautions fell or whatever, we could have played back and done a lot different. Long Beach losing a ton of points, it could have been an easy probably top 5 or 6 there. You know, getting crashed out, and you know, what really affects you now is when there was a field of 20, you'd still earn relatively okay points. Whereas now, if you're 27th or 28th, you know, it's a big loss of points. So yeah, you know, Indy 500 was a bit blah as well. We didn't kind of have the speed. We kind of knew that from early testing days at the Speedway qualifying. You know, second row, it was just one of those things. And then the race, we had the issue with the tire. Iowa, I think we played the long run too much. Toronto, we didn't pit. You know, you can list the results, you know, or kind of dissect them each. So yeah, just a bit of an average year, but an average year and finishing second in points, and obviously, you know, welcoming the championship back to Ganassi. Chip's 15th championship is crazy. Alex is second. He drove a tremendous season so far, and I'm sure he will in Laguna as well. But you know, the 10-car group just did such a solid job this year.
Yeah, and there was a couple times, like, when you watch, I mean, I'm pretty intense on the guys I watch, Alex being one of them.
Yeah.
How many things went perfect for them?
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. I mean, that's how he built that lead, and obviously, yeah.
And I think there was, kind of the second through fifth in the championship kind of all had their, bad days or 2 bad days or whatever it was, and that deficit equates pretty quickly. But you got to hand it to them too, though. The days where they were maybe off or missed something in qual or had an issue in qual, they were still able to rebound on strategy. And I've been part of those years, man, where everything you touch just goes so well, and those years are great, man. Yeah. So congrats to them, and huge credit to the team. So yeah, it's been exciting.
So speaking of Long Beach,
yeah,
like it's when you start Googling stuff from 2023 in your name. So obviously, did anything ever come out of you and Pato, or?
No, like I think there was honestly, the racing part is the racing part, but I think, how he dealt with it afterwards was kind of what disappointed me the most, and how aggressive he was, and how, basically he was not in taking any responsibility. Yeah. I've raced him for a few years for sure, and we've always had that, that mutual respect, and I don't know, I was kind of lost on that a little bit, but we're all good now. It's part of racing, and you do have those crashes. I just felt like in the situation that it didn't have to be that corner. It was either going to be the next. We were starting to get the degradation of the red tire. He was on the alternate or on the primary tire, which was going to be the long run one to be on.
Sure.
It wasn't going to be a difficult pass. It's just you don't have to crash guys out to do it. So it's
Yeah, it was such a late dive, but
it came from so far back. I'd already committed to the corner. It's quite a wide entry there. You turn from a long way back, to get to that apex, and I saw it, but I couldn't do anything. If I decided to go to the left, I was going to put myself on the tires. So I really had to keep, trying to drive on the normal line, and hopefully, he was going to kind of back out of it somewhat, but it didn't happen. And so that was it.
All right, the other low light.
No, it's all good.
With Will.
Oh,
so I want to know, when he's walking towards you and he's so mad, like can you hear what he's saying?
No, not really. I'd started to take my helmet off, but I think even backing that up, I just spun and turned 12 in Canada corner. Coming out, I knew there were people on fast laps, or, it was the start of practice too or whatever, and I knew there were people coming, not some necessarily fast laps, but, kind of looked in the mirror, I could see Grosjean was coming, and then I didn't see anybody else, but, later when I watched, he was so close to Grosjean, and then I tried to just get offline just in case, there was somebody coming, or I didn't want to drag a bunch of crap onto the track. And unfortunately, drive straight in front of Will, and at that point I felt so bad. I was in a position where I was just like, my God, I'm so sorry for that happening. And then when I see it's the 12, I'm like, oh my God. Here we go. This is going to be interesting. And I think before the car was even stopped, he was pretty animated, and I don't, it's a crappy situation to be in, man. I didn't want that for the both of us, and there's at no point want to put anybody at a risk of any of these sessions that you miss. Now you're so compromised because of the competition of the series. So yeah, I just felt bad, man. But.
You guys talk later? Because that would be typical. That's the weekend you guys get to ride in a pickup truck together on the pace lap, or on the parade lap.
It's always normally in the motorhome lot, but even we used to have separate medic cars, right? Because I think there was a story way back when I think it was Dan Wheldon and Danica punched him or slapped him in the ambulance or the medic car. So they typically try to split the drivers up, but he pushed me, and I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. Had it been a different environment, the aggression may have been a little bit different, but from my point of view, man, I caused that, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Even when he was walking up, I'm like, I'm sorry, man.
You can read your lips.
Yeah,
but you can't read his lips, so I want to know what he was yelling.
Yeah, there was lots of F's, U's, and I think C words and all kinds of stuff. But, then he gave the push and whatever. I get it. He was pretty pumped up at the time, and we know how animated Will can definitely get. But even by the time we got into the medic car, he's like, "Man, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
so sorry I pushed
quick?
you." And then he's like, "Grosjean is such a dick," and he starts going off on Grosjean. But it was. Definitely a memory I'll have of Will forever, and there's many of those to go with it. But, it's good to see his passion, but obviously he takes it to the extremes.
Yeah, no, I wanted to hear your story on that.
Yeah.
So Marcus is going to Andretti.
Yeah.
So when we talked like a couple years
Andretti
ago,
keeps paying these big bucks to everybody.
are they?
You know?
Is that what's going on?
I think so.
Is that
between them and McLaren, man? Yeah.
So I read something yesterday, I think it was on Racer, where they named McLaren as the richest team on the paddock, and I was like, really, more than Roger?
Maybe the way they spend.
Yeah,
like,
I know they're spending
if you
more.
look at, you would see a lot of that too, just with uniforms and stuff, or suits that, it's only a 3-car team, but they're as big as any of the 4-car teams or whatever. There's a lot of personnel, and they obviously have a lot of push from the F1 side as well, and deep engineering, kind of stuff.
They don't have a win this year.
And the tyre, yeah,
They don't have a win.
I know, but we still got one race to go, and Pato's had, I don't know, loads of
missed the
podiums.
shift, or not missed the shift, but had that thing at St. Pete.
Yeah, the overboost or plenum fire at St. Pete, which maybe that would have changed the season. I don't know. They've been a little bit up and down, but yeah, it's a well-funded team. They got great sponsors, and I think if they had a bigger factory or a bigger workshop at the moment, they would have gone to 4 cars for next season. I think that's kind of the situation they're in, but probably come 25.
Well, I was going to ask you, so you've been through a lot of teammates.
Yeah.
What's it like when on Sunday when you have to say later to Marcus? Like,
yeah, or you've even got the situation, like, if you look into it on a different way, was with Palou, right, where, he's talking about leaving a team already a year before his contract's up. So then, that environment gets tricky straight away, especially with information, right? Like, that's the biggest thing that we have nowadays is data. And
did Alex last year get to be part of? I've heard how sometimes this works, where we know you're leaving, so now we're not going to have you in on the technical meetings.
No, you're still in debriefs and everything. It's just how much access you have to maybe information, I guess, maybe reports or pre-race, pre-weekend reports and things like that. Car setups, all that kind of stuff, I think become, fairly restricted. And I think, especially when it comes later in the season, when you start talking about development items that are coming for next season that you're maybe testing various small parts of during the last few race weekends of the year, then that stuff kind of gets cut off, or but
on a personal level, how is it like to say, because Mark's been a good teammate, he's got a 500 win, he's been good for the team.
Of course, I'm sad to see him leave. I wish he had stayed. I know it would have been a tough decision for him, especially with him and Brad and the 8-car side. Like, they're a great unit, and I think when you're in a team environment, you just really want consistency, right? You start to build, a really good idea of, like, hey, if the 8-car likes this, typically the 9-car will like that. You start to build a really good depth of information of knowing which directions to go, and that's, that can be tough, especially when you start to bring new people in, because, rookie next year with Linus, but that's great to see for him, kind of whirlwind tour for him. I think he was kind of out of every kind of talk, and then gets a couple of races with Shank, which you got to thank Shank for promoting that situation as well. And man,
I feel bad for Simon.
Yeah, man,
that's a hard way to go out.
Yeah, it's hard to. I don't know too much. I text Simon. I talk to him a little bit, but he's, he holds his cards pretty close to himself, which I totally respect that, and that's the way it is. But yeah, you don't want to see that ever. It's kind of similar to Dario's situation.
Yep.
You're forced into. Dario's was a forced retirement, but I guess we don't know too much about where Paj is going to go or do or what's coming yet. So hopefully. 100%, you just want to make sure that his health's okay, and then you can work on the racing stuff later.
Yeah. You got to drive the new power plant.
Yeah.
Right? You and Will, right, were at the test.
There's been a few iterations of the hybrid system. Then there was also the new engine that came, right, which was the 2.4 litre, which I think both Honda and GM put a lot of effort into, and then that 2.4 motor was scrapped. And then they put all the effort into basically Ilmor and HPD developing the hybrid system, because I think they kind of weren't getting what they needed from maybe some of the suppliers. So it's a pretty sweet package. It's definitely got a lot of room for improvement, but also I think the technology that they're using is is pretty trick. And
Will the cars be faster?
no.
Seems like we're adding weight all the time now.
Yeah, I don't know what. Maybe the first iteration was 150 pounds or something. You know, if you look at an IMSA package, it's 200, 250 pounds just for the hybrid unit. You know, so this one's pretty small and light. You know, maybe I don't even know what it is, 60 pounds or something like that. So, you know, we'll need some assist from the boost still, I think. But durability-wise, we had one small failure at the last test, which was a 2-day test, and you know, Will probably did 800 miles or something. I did, I don't know, 500 or 600 miles just because we were down for several hours just to fix or to change a part out. Actually, it's just because of the packaging is so tight. Like when you look at the car, you won't see any differences. All housed inside the bell housing, which is pretty cool. You know, as technology moves forward in the next year or two, I think you can see up to probably 100 horsepower from the electric side, and you know, maybe for a period of 10 to 20 seconds, which is pretty amazing.
You ran in the rain too, right?
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah. Didn't get electrified, or that was good. You have to start making some rubber boots and gloves and stuff. Right?
Yeah, trust me, it's coming. All right, so to wrap up the IndyCar season, we're always talking about number 7. So how do you prepare? How do you get more prepared? What are you going to do different to get number 7?
Yeah, the last few years have been kind of finding your kind of happy place, right? You know, so you know, had Bretsman, then had Simmons, and then had, you know, Cannon. These are all engineers, and then you know, Simmons again for a little bit, and then finally with Ross Bernal this year, and yeah, it's been really good, really fun, but it takes a little while to get that, you know, kind of ironed out, and to know, you know, because every driver, I think, speaks slightly different language or uses different adjectives to explain what they need or something like that. But yeah, so I think what we've done this year has been pretty good. The car has had great pace. Qualifying's definitely been a lot better when we've executed like we've needed to. So yeah, I think it was just kind of a building year a little bit for our side. You know, the 9-car group has been very strong, especially, you know, pit stops and, you know, all those kinds of things. So you got to remember too, it's a fairly chaotic stand on the 9-car. You know, you got Mike, you got Chip, you know, you got Ross, and then you got Simmons, and there's a lot of people that have done a lot of things in their lives, and I think they've found a really sweet spot too lately. So that's been good.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about sports cars.
Yeah.
All right, so you've won the 24-hour 3 times overall?
3 overall, and one in the
class,
GT.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't won them all?
No, just a podium, just a podium. This year, I think we had the speed to be on the podium, but we had a couple of issues here and there, some penalties, and I had a bit of a spin, but that didn't really, you know, it was at a moment in the race, it didn't really cost us anything. But yeah, it was.
It's an interesting time, right? Because I don't know if they BOP the hypercars, but it's obviously so many different mixtures of everything, right?
Yeah, so over there you're classified as a hypercar, but you can definitely see, you know, a profound difference between the proper hypercars, you know, the Ferrari, the Toyota, and you know, even the Peugeot, especially, you know, in straight line speeds and things like that. I think they tried to bring them together as much as possible, but I think that was a huge credit to Cadillac, you know, to go there and be literally the next best.
Yeah. Did you guys get 4th?
We were 3rd and 4th.
3rd and 4th.
You know, so it was a Ferrari, Toyota, and then 2 Cadillacs. You know, so that you know, to beat a lot of the manufacturers that they did, you know, even Porsche came with a bunch of cars, and you know, we all know their history at Le Mans. So it'll be interesting to see how they progressively try to get that group together. You know, I thought this year might be the first year you had the outside chance of, you know, an IMSA car or an IMSA hybrid, you know, trying to you know, pull that in. But yeah, it's a cool time, I think, for sports car racing around the world. You know, as always, I think it can be done a little bit better in some cases for creating balance of performance, but you know, to see all these manufacturers, you know, Cadillac back in, you know, still Toyota, you got Lamborghini coming in this year, you know, you got Porsche, you got all the big ones, you know, BMW next year, you know, will be at Le Mans as well. So it's great to see the growth and just the competitiveness of that race, and Le Mans is special, man. You know, you've been there, right? No, you haven't.
It's on the bucket list.
You need to go. Like,
I think you need a helmet carrier next year.
Sure, man. We need plenty of those. But it's just an amazing race. It's kind of like the 500, but the Indy 500, but like a European version of it. But it's insane.
The parade, right? Like,
you got the parade. Well, the parade's much more, I would say, R-rated than the Indy one. The Indy one's more family.
Oh, it's for kids.
The Le Mans ones.
What do they do?
They like to drink, so it gets pretty crazy. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. But it's very compact, and it's not super long. It's maybe, I guess it's almost as long as the 500 one, but it's just a different vibe, man. But it's fun. It's a really cool, really cool race. Really cool.
It's funny. When I first started in this industry, like maybe the second or third year, I had 8 or 9 friends that race Le Mans, and I thought, it'll be like this every year.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm only going if there's 6 or more than 5.
Yeah.
It's got to be 6 or more. This year would have worked out, but I had some other stuff. But
it's tough to get those seats now. I think, especially with how the WEC side is done, right? Because they need 3 drivers every race. The IMSA side for me still kind of works pretty well, where you do the four endurance runs: Daytona 24-hour, Sebring 12-hour, Le Mans, and then Petite. But you can't really have a part-time driver on the WEC side. And then also how they do their entries for Le Mans can be pretty tough as well. So it'll be interesting to see, how next year plays out, even for driver situations. But like once you get rid of P2's gone next year, right? I think they're bringing back a small amount of P2 cars for Le Mans, but WEC, they're gone. So you got all these amazing drivers that are looking for rides. So you've really got a very tight group of people that maybe have the luxury of doing it, which I feel very fortunate this year to be in that situation.
Yeah, and I hope we get to go next year.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so I went through Wikipedia.
Yeah.
There's some funny stuff, and there's obviously you've always ended seasons really well.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to see how many little yellow dots there are in the second half of the season. But there was a couple that I know what 2 of them were. One of them, I wanted to know if you remember this, because I remember. I was 2001 Texas.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that day? So just to catch people up, we were at the kart race.
Yeah, Texas.
And all of a sudden, you were a rookie. It's your 3rd race.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, people weren't feeling well.
Yeah.
Because what was it like? A lap time was 24 seconds, and you guys were under 10 or 12 Gs for 16 of the 24 or whatever it was.
I think it was the combined G was the issue, right? Like the cars were fast. We went to circuits that were super quick. You had, top speeds at maybe California Speedway back in the day, of over 240 miles an hour. I think the average lap for DeFerrin was like 240 or something like that. But the difference with Texas, right, it's only a 1.5 mile circuit, and the banking was very high. So is the combined G load of the horizontal and the vertical load going through you. It was kind of weird. We were practicing, and then from what I remember, that we kind of stopped because some drivers were feeling dizzy. And then, we all went into a room, and obviously I think when you turn out for a race, there's definitely a difference of opinions. I felt fine. I didn't have any issues. I remember my teammate, and this might be when they actually called the meeting, was Gujerman, and he crashed in turn 2, and the car finally came to a stop in turn 4. Like it was...
went forever.
And I remember seeing him that night. I've never seen somebody that the whole body was bruised. Like it was crazy. His whole body was just like black from bruising.
Really?
Yeah. That meeting, some team owners wanted to continue on, some drivers didn't, and vice versa. So it was definitely a weird situation to be in. For me, I was kind of indifferent. I'm like, hey, I'm happy to race, or I'm happy to go home, especially if some people are getting affected. But yeah, that was.
Who was the most vocal?
I think Chip was pretty vocal to continue on in some of the meetings, maybe. I'm sure there's a ton of stories that kind of come out of it from behind the scenes. I think there were definitely some drivers that were pretty keen on not running the event. I think had we had any of those, several car pileups of that thing, there was a large possibility that somebody was going to be hurt really badly or killed. So, it was probably the right decision and one that ultimately we saw that we never went back to Texas and those kind of cars.
So for that day, I remember, so I was with PT in his bus with Alan J.
Yeah.
And Chris Neuer knocked on his door and we're like, oh, what did you do now, right? Because that was back when PT was probably having a little, whatever. Vocal.
Yeah.
So Chris asked us to leave the bus, and so we hung out, had a water, and then Chris left, and we went back in, and PT was like, dude, there's people getting sick.
Yeah.
They're getting dizzy. They don't want to race. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
The only other part of that whole day I remember was every time I seemed to look at track, you were going around.
Yeah.
And so I knew the two guys that I was talking to the most that day were okay.
Yeah.
And I do remember there was a golf cart, and I think it was like TK, Christian, it was all the Brazilians, and they all left at one time. And I want to say like Robbie Fash, your spotter, he's like, go see if you can get an earlier flight. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
And so I did, and in front of me in line at the airport was Helio.
Oh, really?
It's like, oh, you didn't even stay to sign autographs.
Yeah.
Like we could have done, we did everything wrong those couple of years. Like
it definitely annoyed a lot of people, which I get, but safety's one thing. But it could have been handled better, I guess. I don't know. I was still pretty oblivious to most things and probably wasn't really included in much. Being a rookie, I didn't know a lot of the guys that well.
You were just gonna.
I was just happy.
Whatever we're doing.
I was just happy to be there, man. Do whatever it takes.
Second day, or second date, was 2004 Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know anything about it. Did you not race or did not practice or what happened?
Yeah, I think we were out of cars. So this was back when the engine situation. I would say the engine that we had at the time had kind of. We had won the championship the previous year, but I think this was when I think Toyota was looking at really heavily going into NASCAR, and a lot of I would say the financial side, but also development was kind of started push heavily in that direction. So we just had compared to the Honda, they were running circles around everybody. So I think at one point we were like 10 miles an hour faster through the middle of 1 and 2 at Milwaukee, and then we would still be 5 miles an hour slower by the end of it. And these were cars that were all the same. It's not like you could be running vastly, different cars or anything like that. We just had to trim all the time, and so first day practice, we were actually fairly competitive on the Friday, and then practiced, I think it was practice 3 in the morning before qualifying. Went out, crashed in turn 2, really heavy crash, and I felt okay. Like whenever you crash these things, especially those days, maybe safer barriers weren't a common thing, and those cars were built pretty heavy. Like sometimes you could knock the rear wing off, but the driver might be knocked out. So it got back in the car, and I remember with Julian, which is now Alex Palou's engineer. I said to him, I was like, man, just for qualifying, make sure it understeers. Go out. I think it was just finishing my first qualifying lap on my second, spin coming out of turn 4 and have a massive crash, like destroyed both of my cars. So I think I had fractured maybe my thumb or something, and then something wrong with my ankle, and then we were out of cars because I think whoever the teammates were at the time, was it Briscoe and Manning maybe or something like that, they had also crashed. Or Briscoe crashed in qualifying, I don't know. But I was basically sent home because we had no cars left.
Wow.
So that's what broke, I think, probably the Ironman record was probably there. Because I think when I crashed big in Japan with TK,
so
I still made the next race.
Yeah.
We both still made the 500, which came after that, because luckily there was like a 10-day, kind of period of where you weren't driving anything. I got a surgery on my hand and, my pelvis and things like that. But, I think I probably got the record. I destroyed 2 cars completely in less than 4 laps. So Chip that was not a happy time, but I think I remember.
And back then, like if you were a crasher, Chip didn't hang on to you all that long.
Yeah, it was definitely. I think that season I had 6 different teammates or 7 different teammates, because we had Jacques Lazier, Giorgio Pantano. There was a ton of drivers that came in through that period of time. It was a bit of a revolving door. So, yeah, that was a tough time, man. 04-05 season was brutal.
Yeah. Just underpowered the whole time.
Just underpowered, man. And when you're, 16 to 20 races a year, all on ovals, that's when they first introduced, I think it was 05, maybe the Watkins Glen race or something like that in St. Pete.
Man.
Yeah.
All right, so downer day, like this was a hard one. So basically it was did not start, went home, and then a cancel, right? So 2011 Vegas was like it's the day Dan left. What do you remember about the mood going into the race?
Vegas was weird, right? Like it I can't remember, like, I think we tested there previously and everybody's like, it's too, it's just too much grip. We need to take the grip off the cars. You're just going to have a massive pack race. And that was kind of, we were trying to eradicate the pack racing mentality that had been going on for several years. Yeah, I'm sure it was exciting for people to watch, but it was stressful and brutal, man. Like, you would have 2 weekends a year at Texas, then you'd have Kansas. Kansas actually used to spread out a little bit for whatever reason, but even ones at Chicago, and California, those would all be pack races too. So they were tough races because it necessarily wasn't difficult. Your difficulty was trying to move up, but you couldn't without the draft or even move lanes, so people would get super aggressive, and the people most of the time doing it were the ones that maybe weren't that quick of a combo anyway, and you'd have these catastrophic crashes. So yeah, Vegas was weird. There was a lot of hype to it, right? Because they'd offered all this money, and then especially for Dan after winning the 500, and then to come back, and his thing was that he had to start last, and if he could come through the field and win it, he'd get this big cash bonus, etc., etc. But there was a lot of things that worked in the way of that it wasn't a good idea, right? Dan was only 2 races that year. I think he did, the 500.
2 or 3, yeah.
And then he did Vegas as well. So you're out of a car for a long time. It's an interesting environment to be in anyway. To the fact that even when the testing or the practice sessions that we had, it was crazy, man. So I don't know, like, I think the field and the drivers enjoyed being in Vegas because they did a good job promoting it, whether it was the autograph sessions or the lead up to it, or the dinners and things like that. But I think everybody was pretty down on the race, to be honest. I don't think many people wanted to be there for that. And you had a lot of ringers too, right? You had a lot of guys that they were coming in just for that one race as well. So you had a lot of people that hadn't done.
Yeah, there was a really high car count.
Really high car count.
And super high speed.
Yep.
Yeah, Pippo was in there.
Yeah.
I don't think Buddy was doing a full time.
Yeah. And then my good friend Wade was there as well, Cunningham. So it was just an interesting concept. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to ask you, because you're the Iceman because you're so cool, and Dan was such a rock star. Mm-hmm. Like, what made you guys such good friends? Because you're so different.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we were to start with. Yeah, no, we
when he was at Andretti?
No, I think even when we were on the same team, the first, even the lead up to the 500, I think we eventually got called in to, just to sit down and try and figure it out, because even in practice, we were kind of trying to wreck each other's laps, or, you could see, Dan was getting a big toe, so then you'd just lift in the middle of 4 and, screw his lap. It was just lots of dumb stuff going on with, fairly young guys at that stage. What year? That would have been 06, I think. So, I was 25 or whatever. He was, similar age. So, yeah, there was a moment in time when the team were like, hey, you guys have just got to get it together, man. Like, you're trying to, hurt each other's performance opposed to trying to help it, or not being so forthcoming in, meetings and things like that. But, I think it was we had one big night out, and I think it was in Broad Ripple, maybe at Land Sharks or something. And we both partied a little too hard. We missed, we had a commercial shoot the next day in Indy before, I don't even know what race it was for though. So we got in trouble for that, turning up late. But that was kind of where we broke the ice a little bit, was that night out. And we really became good friends through that season and started to work together really well. Learned a lot of him. You know, he was amazing, especially on the 1.5 mile super speedways. Attention to detail was through the roof. You know, just even as debriefs, I think everybody talks about it. You know, you kind of get an oval's just really, it's an oval shape, and you kind of have, they make it 4 corners. There's really only 2, but you talk about the entry, middle, and exit, and you know, he would use 3 pages of handwriting to explain what was going on. Mine would have like 4 comments on it: understeer, oversteer, the car sucks here, you know, and that would be kind of it. But his was, you know, when I put my foot on the accelerator, the car does this, and then when I, you know, lift off the accelerator, the car does this. His detail was interesting to see, just because of the process of how deep he would go into that. Was and his work ethic. You know, he was a hard worker, man, and for me that probably wasn't my forte, I'd say, on that side of things of in that period of time. But yeah, so we cleared the year in 06 and became really good friends. Yeah.
And then helped each other from there on out. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, but then I think even when he left the team, I was sad to see him go. When was that? The end of, was that end of 08 or something, or was that 07? I can't even remember. Might have been 07 actually.
Where'd he go?
To Panther, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was frustrating to see that period of time. But then we started, both of us started families, and yeah, we'd hang out a lot more, and you know.
Yeah, and I know you're tight with Susie and the boys, and
exactly.
So they have a documentary coming out. Did you guys went and saw it, right? You and Emma went and saw it.
We haven't seen it yet. So yeah, we were. It was actually, they did the premiere when it was Le Mans. So I didn't get to go to. I think it was in New York or something where they were doing that. But I didn't get to see it. But seen little bits of it, and obviously was pretty deep in some of the recording stuff for it. And yeah, I think it's going to be awesome.
I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
I obviously talked to Brent, and he's super stoked on it. And I met the producer and the guys that worked on it. Were pretty. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, a lot of them were at Long Beach Race 2 this year. So it's I'm excited to see it for sure. It's he was just he was a big character, man. Did
you ever prank him?
No, I don't think so. It was kind of a one-way street on that one.
Yeah,
I think I remember getting cream pies in the face and all kinds of dumb stuff with him, but nothing crazy.
I did one because you know how meticulous his closet is.
Yeah, man.
So I forget why, but I stayed at his house once when he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I moved like 5 shirts.
Yeah. It's
like,
but even like when I remember going to his house all the time, and you even if you turned the tap on, you had to go and get a paper towel and like wipe up all the wet spots. It was just crazy. I'm like, man, I don't know how you live like this. Like, I'm pretty clean and pretty anal about stuff, but it's like completely next level with that dude. But even, that was the best way to kind of mess with him, would be even like in his driver's locker.
Oh.
Just throw all my crap in there, or put all my dirty suit and underwear in there as well, and it would just spin him out for the whole weekend.
I remember back when it was Brian, TK, Dan, and Dario at Andretti.
Yeah.
And all the media people are like, they need to get to driver intros, and all you can hear is this wrestling and banging around inside the motorhome. Now, they're the only 4 that are left anywhere near their motorhome, or their haulers.
Yeah.
And the 3 come out, and Dan's like, where's my effing shoe or whatever? And I think TK or Dario had stuffed it in the cooler, and they run by and they're like, don't tell him where it is. Like, they're so late. It might have been Brian too, but
I think one year he was so meticulous on shoes. But even one year, I think didn't they somehow got the key to his room in Japan, and then they FedExed all his right shoes back home or something. They'd sent them out, and then they'd taken all his hair product and all his face moisturizer and then put it in the toilet. And I think one of them actually took a crap on it as well.
Oh my gosh.
So those things would have completely ruined his weekends. But yeah, I think he was an easy target for that stuff, man. Stuff.
That is funny. There are some good stories with Dan. Before he got to IndyCar, I hung out with him so much.
Yeah. I saw him a lot because when he first came over and did Indy Lights, he was at Pac West. At Pit Fit training and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's a good dude, man. Before he moved down to St. Pete.
Oh, it's funny when I moved here or started Sparco.
Yeah.
Chad, I don't know if you remember Chad Liberto, but him and Townsend were tight, and Daniel and I were tight, and they're
Yeah.
Oh man, it was brutal.
Frenemies. Yeah.
It's funny to see Townsend and the Wheldon boys with going skippy racing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
Full
like
circle.
that next generation, It's kind of cool to see. And they've been dominating it, right? Have they had the final race yet?
I
think there's still one more to go, but yeah, it's because Townsend's boy had been dominating it, and then now Sebastian's making a late season charge, man.
Good.
It's cool to see. But those guys in go-karts have been killing it, man. They've been doing amazing.
All right, a little more fun than the Vegas race. The 2008 Indy 500.
Yeah.
Do you, because I keep hearing this, do you believe that the track chooses who wins? Like, that's a comment that keeps coming up.
I don't know. It's a good way to describe what happens, I think.
I also, through research, I was telling you earlier, you actually had a great quote on one of the videos on YouTube, and you said, you have to get everything perfect here, and it gives you a chance to win.
Yeah.
That's
definitely how I look at it. I think any kind of, especially now too, even just with how tight the field is, kind of any mishap, you can still kind of recover a little bit. Like even this year where we had the tire failure, we went back to the back of the pack, and then we still managed sixth or something. Even Palou had an issue with the pit lane excursion and ended up fourth or fifth. So you can kind of get there, but you almost need it to be like a 600-mile race to really have a full recovery. And those things, if you have those issues, it's got to happen really early in the race too to recover from it. So yeah, it's the 500's crazy, man. Like, 08 was just one of those months. Like we were fastest most practice sessions. We qualified on the pole. We led, over half or almost half of the race. It's pretty special. But even in that moment, which I always talk about, even the last sort of 50 laps, you're just thinking about something that can go wrong. And I think about that even more now, because lots of things have gone wrong. So
what do you mean?
It's a frustrating race. I love the 500. I love the history of it. I love being in Indy, seeing the city transform and all those situations. But man, that race can be just brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah. Well, so okay, we might as well go there. So your crash with Jay.
Yeah.
That was probably one of your 5 best chances to win.
Yeah.
That car was great. You guys were on point. You had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I was in the stands. So I've only been in the stands for 2 500s out of the last 25.
Yeah.
And that crowd went super loud
Yeah.
and then quiet.
Yeah.
And we couldn't tell the glare we had on our screen. I couldn't tell who it was until for me, you were already moving.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that 10 seconds or 15 seconds of full panic that I'm sure Emma did, and everybody else that could see a screen. What's it like? Well, okay, let's start with what's it like flying through the air like that?
It's weird. Like the moment itself happens quickly, right? Like you kind of I could hear Robbie saying, "Hey, there's a slow car." Jay was fighting balance issues, which we already had, and at the start of the race, we went from leading. I think we dropped back to third or fourth. And then, we'd made a shift, and the car, we were starting to come back up through the field. But yeah, I just remember distinctly going into one, Robbie saying, "Hey, slow car," kind of, high line maybe. And then seeing Jay, but then the situation with him is like he kind of hit the fence. And most of the time on ovals, still when they got that speed, they kind of keep up to the top. And just with how it broke the steering arm or the suspension, it just took a hard left. And I kind of decided to stay high at that point. And when your closing rate's so fast, and an IndyCar on an oval doesn't exactly stop very well. It's all very asymmetric. The car doesn't stop straight. And then the brakes aren't as good as the road course situation. So before you knew it, you could kind of see it, and you're like, oh god, this is going to be a big crash. But I didn't expect to go up, and that was the weird thing. Is like, because when you have these crashes, the start of it happens quick, but then everything just slows down.
So I was going to ask you, is it like Talladega Nights, or
it kind of is, man? It does.
Do you know if you had throttle on, or you off throttle on the brake? Like
not when I first hit. It was kind of, the engine was still running, but Yeah, so you kind of go up, it's very quiet, and then, you know, you're like, man, I'm very high up here. And then you start to look down, and then you're like, man, all I could see was the fence. And, you know, you hear all the horror stories, and, you know, I've had situations with teammates that have got caught in catch fences that have been horrendous. And for whatever reason, kind of going to the fence on the inside of turn 2, the car kind of, I don't know if it caught wind or something, it kind of rotated a bit, which was huge, because the catch fence is just like a cheese grater, and with especially with the carbon fiber tubs and stuff, that they don't really do well with. You know, it kind of just grabs the car, but it also just rips the tub apart. So that's when I hit the wall. There is when I think I broke. Something broke in the front, maybe in the pedal box, and that's when the engine was going nuts, because my foot went all the way to the front. Actually, I might have broken the brake pedal, and then the brake pedal and both feet slid forward, and that's when the engine was going crazy. But for me, I think the weirdest part was when I stopped, and I'm like, shit, and then I see like the whole back end of a car, and I'm like, man, I hope that guy's okay. And then I'm like trying to get out, and I get out, and I'm like, oh, it's the back end of my car that's up there. So it was, that was a wild wreck. Probably one of the craziest videos. Everybody check it out. Yeah, 2017 Indy 500 crash. And yeah, I don't know. I think we went very high. I don't know how, maybe.
So far.
Yeah, 40, so I don't know. Yeah, 100 feet maybe in the air. But then we covered a whole football field in the air, apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a wild crash.
That was the thing. So I don't like to watch it that much, but doing research, I had to. There's one angle from the side, and it's amazing how far it just keeps going.
Yeah,
and you're right. It's a football field.
Then there's that other cool picture where I kind of just coming down to hit 2, and then Alio's going underneath me, and then there's that big jump. So he's in the air too, because there was like an uneven
access
surface, access road or something, and he hits that, and he's in the air, and I'm in the air above him. It was kind of wild, but
you guys do a Top Gun thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get the fingers up, but it was weird. It's funny how the adrenaline kicks in, because you get out of the car, and I'm like, oh, I feel pretty good. Like I feel fine. Like, you know, still feel pretty pumped up. Go to medical. And then we had some friends, I think, that were over from New Zealand. So actually, we left the track before the race was even over, and went to the airport to drop a couple of mates off. And that's when I said to Emma, I'm like, man, my ankle feels really bad, which was my left, which is your braking one. And then we had Detroit doubleheader the following weekend. But yeah, went back to the medical, and had fractured my ankle. You know, but that was it out of that.
Did you talk to Jay? Like, did he, I mean, obviously, it's kind of like what happened with you with Will. Like, he just didn't mean to do it, just wrong,
it's no fault of his.
But did he come over and go, holy man, like...
I don't think there was much interaction, you know, especially at the Speedway. You know, you're in a pretty big facility, and then also you're kind of in different cars. But, I think it wasn't until maybe the banquet night, the next night, that I spoke to Jay. But yeah, it was no fault of his, man. He was trying to hold on to a car, and... You know, it's part of racing.
Stuff happens, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay, it's funny to hear what you were saying about Dan, like how you guys would try to ruin each other's laughs. Because now, like for a really long time now, you're the ultimate team player.
Yeah.
Like everybody I know that's come
because
through.
Of that, to be honest. But you gotta give it to get it too. You know, that's part of being a teammate. You know, it's some guys are a little easier than others, for sure.
But I know, like I've known a lot of your teammates that have come and gone, Graham and Charlie, and like the list goes on, and everybody says the same thing. So my question, because you're so humble when you win, you just won 2 of the last 3, and everything is, oh, my team's so great. And okay, I want to know, what is the one race you're proud of yourself?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Like where you got out of it and went, that was like, maybe it's a race you won by 30 seconds, or maybe it's a day you finished 5th with 3 wheels. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, probably, I don't know, like the 15 championship, that race at Sonoma. Like we had a fast car, but I think on the qualifying lap, you know, I don't know, somebody spun going into the carousel or went offline, and then when you went in there was just a bunch of crap, so it totally ruined my lap, and we started P9. But then I think after like the first lap we were like P4, and then obviously to go on, dominate that race, win it, tie with Montoya, and then win it on a tiebreaker. I don't know. That was a pretty cool race, man, and one I think nobody ever saw really coming. Like it was insane,
especially starting there ninth.
Yeah. Like at a track that you typically don't pass much, but yeah, the tire deck on Alcar was phenomenal, and then I think also in on that side too was the teammates that helped me during that race and held Montoya off, and it was a special day, man, to do that. And then Chip crowd surfing was something to watch as well.
That's really funny.
Chip was crowd surfing front ways, though. I think you meant to do it on your back.
Whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
When you're the boss, you can do it any way you want.
Yeah,
you can cannonball
maybe
if
you get
you
a little
want.
more lucky going front ways. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna get off current racing. We're gonna go back a little bit. I learned something yesterday that I had never. We've talked about your F1 test, which is super cool.
Yeah.
I learned you did an F3000 test with Prost.
Yeah.
What was the behind that? Like, how did you get it? And like, what would you have done if you had gotten that ride?
Yeah. So that one got complicated as well, but I think it was end of '99 season. So I was with Johansson and Vern Schuppen at the time. And part of my being with Stefan's team was that because we had no money to pay for it, that then they would take a management kind of service fee from that point on. And I don't know if it was Vern or Stefan that kind of linked that up, but yeah, it was to run F3000 for the next year, because we had a few irons in the fire, but we weren't really sure which direction we wanted to go. Like how I fell into America was kind of by chance as well. I was on the way to Europe to do Formula 3, ended up doing a test in Sebring. Test went really well, got the drive with Stefan's team for basically very little money, and that was all we had anyway. So I think we were kind of exploring options, but yeah, it was a test in Dijon, which was really cool, with Bourdais as well. And yeah, it was a very gloomy day, but the test went well. I think
was the car super cool, faster than anything you'd ever driven, or
quite similar to the Indy Lights car, to be honest.
Oh, it was.
It was probably a little bit quicker, but in different ways, But the track was really cool. That last corner at Dijon was amazing. Loads of grip, very high, high speed, which was pretty special. But yeah, the test went well, and I think at that point we were kind of working the Pac West situation as well. So, Pac West at the time, ran their kart car, but they also had a very strong Indy Lights team, which was managed at the time by Ziggy Harkis.
That's right.
Harkis, so
that's right.
Another Kiwi, and then. Yeah, they ended up coming up with a deal where we actually got paid to do Indy Lights. So it was like, well,
don't say that too loud, because these kids now.
I know. Yeah, it was. I think that was Tony Renner that set that whole thing up, and they basically just matched his deal. And I was like, we're getting paid to do Indy Lights.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Wow. Got
prize money, everything. It was definitely a change up. But yeah, I don't know what. I think they'd already.
Well, let's put this in perspective.
Bourdais did a hell of a job at the test.
Prost is French.
Yeah.
Bourdais is French.
Yeah.
And you're at a French track that you've never been to, that Bourdais probably grew up at.
Yeah.
But in hindsight,
okay,
you're at that test. The two of you have 10 IndyCar championships. For Prost to even have you two there is pretty, somebody was doing some scouting.
Yeah, it was cool, because I didn't even really know Bourdais at that point. I don't even know if he'd done.
Well, now that you guys are teammates.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
It's bizarre. It's a small world, dude.
It's
a very small world. But I was, there was a, even to go to the Prost factory at the time and, meet Sebastian at the time too was cool. But to look back on it, it's pretty special for sure.
So part of someone told me you might have been injured going into that test.
Yeah.
What happened there?
I think didn't I fall off a scooter or something?
It's your story.
Yeah. I think we were. Yeah, I'm guessing this story is from Blair or somebody. But yeah, I think we'd had a socializing evening and decided to race maybe mopeds, and crashed a moped pretty hard. So I think I messed up my wrist and my ankle or something. So yeah, there might have been a small injury on that test.
Right.
I remember the flight over was brutal. I was a little under the weather.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
sitting next to Stefan the whole way, I think too. It was yeah. He's probably like, what the hell is going on
What's
here?
wrong with you?
Yeah.
I was also supposed to ask about something about the Johansson Ford F-150 shop truck.
Oh yeah. That was an interesting story too. That was driving home one night. It was probably right around the time I had still love Taco Bell. So just picked up a fresh batch of Taco Bell, and I think it was me and Mark Pilcher actually were driving home. It was in the Eagle Creek area, and I was multitasking a little bit with some tacos. And then he's giving me directions because I was fairly new to the area and had no idea, and we're kind of both eating, and then looked up and went straight through this stop sign. It was right at there's a T intersection on the backside of Eagle Creek Airport in Indianapolis, and missed the stop sign, go straight into the ditch, go over the ditch. We end up going through the fence of the airport and trying to drive the car back home. So we get it back to his apartment. We get out, and you look at this thing, it's bananaed, man. Like the sills were dragging on the ground. And all I remember too was like this, I think he had like a giant, the big 64 ounce of like Mountain Dew or something. All I can remember was I was covered in Mountain Dew, and the whole inside of the car, the airbags had gone off, everything, and it was bad. But the worst part of that story was the next morning, I called the team manager, which is Kane Williams, another Kiwi. I'm like, hey man, we had a bad evening last night. We broke the car. Can you come pick it up? Because at that point, the battery, it had knocked all the belts off the alternator. The battery, I think, had left the car somehow. So then we're putting it up on this trailer by ratchet straps, and then we get it to the top, and the ratchet straps break, and it rolls off, and we're in this parking lot, and it takes out 2 more cars. So then we quickly hurry, like we're fresh off the boat from New Zealand, man, and New Zealand can be a bit rough in some areas, and so we're quickly getting more ratchet straps, trying to put this car back on there so we can get out of this parking lot before they notice their cars have been smashed into, which is I highly
you
advise.
Were young.
I advise against that
Yes.
these days for sure, but yeah, then the owners come out and like, oh, what happened to our cars? We're like, we don't know what you're talking about, but they're sideways in their parking slots and with very damaged cars. So yeah, long story short, we had to get insurance on the truck, the F-150, and then fix 2 other cars that were in a parking lot.
Oh.
So yeah, that was not an enjoyable 12 hours.
That is too funny.
Yeah.
All right, just a couple like kind of quick hits. What's your current cars in your fleet?
I'm pretty simple, man.
I think you had like Honda Pilot.
I had a Honda Pilot. I just got upgraded to a Acura MDX, which I must say both the Honda Pilot and the MDX are amazing cars. I did treat myself maybe back in 2019. I got a Porsche Singer, which finally came actually May of this year.
Wow.
It turned up. That's pretty cool.
Is it in Indy?
Yeah, it's in Indy.
All right.
Yeah.
What about the like?
And I have my Corvette from 2008.
You do?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know how many people know, but as a Ford GT driver, I think a bunch of you guys were able to get a Ford GT. Yours was white?
Yeah, it was white.
Yours was white.
Yeah.
Do you still have it?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know collectors.
Yeah, the GT was cool. Like, it was a fun program to be a part of, man, and that car was amazing. It was amazing. It just wasn't the same as the other cars we were racing, I guess, at the time. But yeah, it's an iconic car, always will be.
That's awesome.
And was very lucky to be a part of that, for sure. Yeah.
All right, favorite track?
All time, probably Phillip Island.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Indy,
what a great event, too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is. Phillip Island, just outside of Melbourne. Probably Pukekohe in New Zealand. That's kind of where I first started racing ever, when I was at the age of 13 in proper formula cars. That was pretty sweet, but that's actually just been closed. In America, Watkins Glen, man, is tough
Really?
to beat. Yeah, I love that place. It's just super fun, especially when they did the repave on that place. Was wicked. High speed. Road America. It's amazing.
Well, you're only one. I need one favorite.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
sorry.
Those
There's
are-
too many. Like, that's what's so cool about America, is that there's so many old school American classic road tracks where I feel like they kind of, all these new versions of tracks like Coda. I can't stand Coda. People love it, but I'm like, I don't get it. Like,
I love going there.
there's no risk versus reward. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of muck it up and then you're going to go off and there's like,
Just get back
parking
on.
lot, you just come back on and away you go. So, yeah, I don't know. I like the old school, high risk, kind of high reward, mid or highs, kind of similar to
Yeah.
that. You kind of put a wheel off, you're in trouble pretty quickly.
You're going to bounce
so.
quick.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite race car that you've driven?
Ooh, probably the kart cars.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Like, I think at the end there, the 2002 season, we didn't have a great year, but 2002 Pac West closes, and then come on with Chip Ganassi Racing, which obviously that changed my story, I think, from the get go. But those cars, I don't even know what they were, 1,000 horsepower, loads of grip, super fast. Like you used to run in a 2 mile oval, and a lot of the race you'd be complaining about wheel spin off the corners, while you're doing 210 miles an hour. Like there was a ton of power out of those things. But, I think even the Toyota was almost 20,000 RPM, and that was with a normal valve spring, not pneumatic or anything like that. They were insane technology. But you had updates all the time too, right? Like every 2 or 3 races, you changed an engine every night.
yeah.
You were
No, I
3-4
remember-
engines on a race weekend. You had updated exhaust pipes. You had, every 3 races, I think, was a new
You had quali
underwing
motor
or-
and race motor.
Yeah, man, it was insane. Some of those engines would only do 50 to 100 miles. Like
Yeah.
that was a cool period.
It was
and
super
and obviously probably the Williams BMW test was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to race it, but to do probably what do we do 4 days testing, and that thing was pretty insane. Everybody went on about the brakes, but I was like, holy cow, the power of that thing was nuts. That V10 was a special era, man.
Another 20,000 RPM.
Plus, probably, yeah. Those
So
things
cool.
were crazy.
So cool. To your memory, what is the best on-track head-to-head battle, like in a single race? Like where...
Ooh, that's tough, man. Come on, I've done,
or
I've done like 400 IndyCar races.
Maybe most fun. Like it's funny because like I'll talk to Buddy and he'll remember some of the Grand M days where you guys are side by side on the banking, looking at each
Yeah.
other, like waving or
Yeah.
thumbs up or middle finger
Yeah.
or whatever it was. And he goes, it was just the cars were terrible, but it was so fun.
Yeah. God, I'm trying to think, man. There's so many good ones. Like loads with Dario, obviously, through that period of time. Will and I have had some amazing races together. I don't know. I'm kind of stumped on that one.
All right, I'll let you think about it.
Yeah.
You can tell me after the season.
Yeah.
What is your favorite non-racing app or website?
My PNC Bank app. No, I'm joking.
It's pretty exciting stuff
You
there.
do need it. I don't know. Like, I'm mostly just messages. Instagram, I think's good.
Yeah.
Like,
Social
I
media.
enjoy it for like family, seeing, because a lot of the time, I only get back maybe once a year to New Zealand. So my sister's very good at she does it raw though, like picture, post, like she doesn't,
It's not bedazzled.
no, it's not bedazzled or
No.
it's just raw, and I think that was kind of the whole intention for Instagram in its infancy. But now we can see that's changed a lot. But I do enjoy that. I enjoy seeing what family and friends are up to when you can't be with them. So,
Well, it cracks me up because you guys we've known each other forever before we had kids.
Yeah.
And when we go to an IMSA race or an IndyCar race, I mean, I have pictures of my son
Yeah.
with you guys when he
Yeah.
came up to your knee. Now
Yeah.
he's taller than you.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he didn't have to go to a race, but you guys know he plays lacrosse or he plays football
Yeah.
or he went
Yeah.
mountain biking
Yeah.
or whatever it was. And
you feel a part of it, but that's
Yeah.
kind of weird too, some ways, right? Because like even for some people that I follow, and like you think by time you actually think you're friends with them or you know them, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
because you follow them and you see what they're up to. But yeah, social media is interesting, man. It's definitely.
I got to know
it's like a new dimension.
I got to know when Kit went go-karting for the first time, right? Like
yeah.
that's, to me, it's important.
Yeah.
You know, I have to have budget.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's probably, don't get on my phone too much. Netflix is cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a skill or a talent you wish you had?
Ooh. I don't know, like, maybe Rubik's Cube.
Do
Do you know how to do that?
Well, now I do because of Instagram. Because
Oh,
there's
really?
guys on there.
Oh, you can.
They can teach
that's
you how
what
to
I need
do
to
it.
So I need to learn that. I remember one day. I think it was probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. It was a rain delay somewhere, and
Someone threw you one.
no, I could see somebody in the motorhome lot juggling, and I'm like, man, I need to learn how to juggle. So then that's why I had some like oranges in the bus. All I remember though was after that, just how much the bus stunk of citrus because I dropped them so many times. But yeah, so I learned to juggle. But yeah, Rubik's Cube would be kind of fun.
All right.
It's not that, interesting, but
No, it's. I wish I played guitar. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of my
I do
thing.
drums. I started drums a little bit,
Recently, or when you were
Nah,
12?
a while back. Yeah. No, not that. Yeah, maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. But nowhere near on the talent level of Herder or Power. Power's amazing on drums, man.
Yeah.
Guy's really good.
Colton.
Colton as well, yeah.
Yeah, he's actually. Well, his dad was musical too.
Yeah, what did he play drums? No.
I don't know what he played, but I know
He might have been guitar or something.
Yeah, a long time ago, I know they had like a bunch of the guys in the paddock that were in a band, and Brian was in that.
And everybody's into pickleball lately?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that's a talent, right? Maybe. I don't know.
It's a sport. I mean,
It is a sport.
I mean, like if you love tennis, like I know Haley's into tennis.
Tennis is brutal.
What was the funniest moment for you this season?
Funniest?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be something that like happened to you, or maybe something you saw.
Jeez. I don't know. What I find funny might not be what
That's all right.
is funny, but no, I'm trying to think. I don't know. Man, you're stumping me on these.
I think you're being shy.
No. Just trying to think what comes to mind. I'm going to have to come back to that one
All right.
too.
Do you talk inside your helmet to yourself?
Nah, not really.
Like when you blow a corner, you're like, "Come on!" You
Nah,
don't say anything.
I don't do that.
It's really common for in motocross. Like,
Oh, it is?
Yeah, you
Start yelling?
You start telling yourself you keep going. You
Yeah.
can like no.
Get after it.
Yeah, like or you blow
I
a
don't
rut.
think I do. I normally get vocal on the radio about something, or that kind of thing. But yeah, it's funny actually with simulators. It's interesting to see what people do on simulators.
Yeah, you
Charlie does like some humming kind of thing.
Seriously?
Yeah, or like makes noises. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'd have to
I imagine
mute that.
TK does as well.
Yeah,
Makes noises.
Gosh, TK and his Sims. He's all
He's
over
a
it.
crazy sim.
I will
dude,
say it was pretty cool to come home a couple times during COVID and the kids aren't in school. And I look and Reese is in a room with TK, Pizzonia, Barrichello, like all these
All
like
of them racing.
Yeah, and Reese Neuer. I was like, dude.
Yeah. He's doing good with that stuff though.
Yeah.
Good on him. He's loving it. That's what's cool.
Who would play you in a movie that wasn't your movie?
Oh, it'd be Brad Pitt. We're the closest. We look the same.
Pretty sure that's a good choice.
Yeah. We look identical.
Emma and the kids are in London.
Yeah.
And you're at home. Or what is the best way to waste a day?
It's quite weird when you go into a scenario like that because you're at home and, typically you've got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old that are fairly noisy, and then you've got a 3-year-old that's smashing into everything. So it's kind of weird. Like I actually try to get out. I try to go get out.
Really? You don't stay home?
Nah, because it feels weird. Like, because we lost our dogs, one last year and one the year before, that it's just quiet, man. It's like really... So yeah, I normally just call someone or...
Just so you know, we can hook you up.
Oh yeah, there we go. Rescue.
Yeah?
Yeah, we need to. Once we're in one spot, we definitely will be having some rescues, man. But yeah, it's quite an eerie situation, man, to be involved in.
Yeah.
At home by yourself. From a normally, most weeks for me are very crazy at home.
I thought you were going to say, I travel all the time, so it's awesome just to like get in my sweats and watch Netflix.
I do enjoy that, but I think when you're in the home environment, it's quiet, it's different.
Yeah. Going
from a family. So, I don't know. Yeah, trust me, some travel days it's nice just to get to the hotel room and chill out. But yeah, I end up training, like, I'll train in the mornings, and then if I've got an easy afternoon, I'll probably end up getting on the bike or doing something anyway, get outside.
You got to keep up with Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Yeah.
He's getting after it.
What is the best prank you've pulled off? And it doesn't have to be to the motorsport guys, just in general.
The prank. I don't know. The funniest one I think that I thought was funny was it Matt Surer maybe? Who was at Andretti for a period of time? I don't know.
Doing what?
But they driving.
Oh, who did you say?
Matt Surer?
I don't know. Oh, okay.
Um,
I'm like, Matt who? But you mean
I don't know if it was
Japanese
him.
guy.
I think it was somebody around that kind of era. But they'd somehow connected his horn on his rental car to his brake pedal. Did you hear that story? So every
That's pretty
time
good.
he came to like a stop or a light or anything, the horn was going flat out. I thought that's amazing. So I think that's a great prank. I haven't done it, but
you're going to work on that.
that's a very good one. That's a very good one.
It is funny. There's been some good ones in the paddock, like Dario cutting up Tony's bike.
Yeah.
When I forget who, but they bought Sage that pink car.
That was me and Dario.
That was good.
I don't know if TK was involved in that one, but yeah, the Camaro. What do we call it? The Caramo. The Caramo, the bright pink one. And actually that got him into a load of trouble because they figured out his age and they had to take the loaner car off him.
No way.
So we felt really bad after that. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's still funny.
Yeah, that was good. The Caramo.
I remember it, and then I remember a story with Tag where he had I think he had cursed on the radio to his crew chief, or to Neil and Mickelride or whatever, and they loosened the wheels on his rental car, so he's going down the road,
Chugging along. There is loads, like even with Connor Daly too, right? When they fill, because he always puts a pool up behind his motorhome for the 500.
Oh yeah.
And then they put all those little beads in there, whatever those things were.
Yeah.
Did they put the rental car on top of the trash cans this year? There's loads of ones. Took the wheels off of it.
Connor's a glutton. He hangs out with a bunch of the wrong guys.
He loves it.
Rossi and Hinch and.
They pulled a prank on me, man. It was after the Toronto win, where we tied or broke the record with Mario. So they end up jumping our fence at home one night, and then we wake up to this almighty. I thought somebody was shooting in our front yard, and so I look on the cameras, and Emma's freaking out. The kids all wake up. Kit's crying his eyes out, and then another one goes off. It's like they were shooting something, and so I go and get, because I clay pigeon shoot, so I go and get my shotgun out of the closet and walk out. I'm just in my undies, and and then I can see on their video camera, I can see these three people hiding behind one of the cars in the driveway, and I'm like, man, this is weird. So Emma sets the alarm off, which calls the police immediately.
Oh, this is getting better.
Yeah, so then I see them running to the door, and I'm like, oh my god, they're trying to get in the house now. But then I go to the front door with the gun, and it was Herder and Rossi.
No way.
I'm like, what are you guys doing, man? And they're like, oh, we just thought it was funny to let off these fireworks. And kids walking by, crying. The girls are all upset as well. And I'm like, dude, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, the police are coming. You're going to have to get out of here. So, yeah, cops turn up. I'm like, oh, it was just a misunderstanding. Some fireworks that a car threw over the fence. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
So that was a good prank. My wife didn't enjoy that one much.
No. If we ask the kids who their favorite their drivers are, who do they say? Hopefully not those two.
Poppy likes Joseph. Tilly's not big into racing. I think she likes Paddo. They like Armstrong as well. I think as you see the age start to go down, they get more on a common ground. A lot of those guys too have a really big social following too, so they enjoy their videos and all that kind of stuff.
I think Reese, his favorite growing up was TK because they were the same height. I'm pretty sure. Honestly, I think at that point they were Reese was 8.
Shame for TK that he never grew up. He never got to proper man's height.
I know.
Yeah, his nose did, but not his legs.
Yeah. Well, gosh, think of how bulked up he got, and now he's so thin.
Yeah.
He
rides a lot now, man.
Yeah. When he's not video gaming. I mean, simulating.
Simulating, exactly, exactly.
Do you have any are you working with any charities? Do you still do canteen?
Canteen, a little. Only when I get home, because that's the New Zealand. Over here in America, it's I think kids with cancer or something along. Something along that
James
lines.
and Ryan's deal too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which was we did start working with them a little bit. St. Jude's always been a big one for us. Obviously, we've started by the Target and Target Health situation, and then Emma does a little bit of stuff with the Humane Society in Indianapolis and things like that. So yeah, kind of spread a little bit. Mind in the UK was a big push for Emma and myself too, because she lost her sister, her younger sister, to depression as well. So or mental health, I should say. So yeah, there's a few.
Okay. If you feel free to throw them out.
There's lots of great charities out there, man, and if you can ever give, that's yeah.
Yeah. I think you're done.
Sweet.
I think I really do appreciate you coming by.
No, of
being
course,
my first episode. Obviously, wish you nothing but the best. We'll see you petite.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Petite, and then you're going to come Le Mans next year. Hopefully, I'm driving at Le Mans.
Yeah. If you're driving at Le Mans next year, I'll come.
Cool. Yeah, you should.
And I'm bringing Billy.
Yeah. There we go.
We don't. Solo's not so good.
Nah, you'll be fine, mate.
It'll be fine.
Enough people. You know enough.
It'll be cool.
It's a good vibe. But thank you, man.
Thanks anyway. I'm going to. Can you sign that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then I think we're going to auction it off for these guys. They just took on. They're overfull and they're under financed.
Yeah.
And just so you know, this is. I don't know if you remember, because you're tight with Trey Lee.
Yeah.
Jesse Nelson was one of his riders that got paralyzed. Yeah. This is his wife's.
Oh wow. Okay. Very cool.
So Emily.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Warrior Built.
Yeah.
Who's it's for veterans.
Nice.
It's a local thing.
Yeah.
That has it's an awesome facility. So Monster helps them out, and they have a race shop. They do off-road racing.
Yeah.
And they have a PTSD room and a weight room and a music room, and I just heard they have a room for podcasts. So
cool.
We're going to do an episode out there, but just kind of one of the things we're doing.
Awesome, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
I appreciate it. Good to see you, mate.
Yep.
Cheers.
So that's it. That's our first episode with Scott Dixon. Hopefully you enjoyed all the stories. I did do some digging. I think I got a couple of stories that nobody's ever heard, at least here in America. And look for things on YouTube and Instagram, and we have more guests coming.